jumping back a little bit to marketing, because as compelling as the KYC is, I don't know. I did nod off there for a second. I'm like, what do you guys? I can't. What are the main platforms that you find useful? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? And then have you tried or thought of things like retargeting and doing any sort of purchased advertising in those areas? Have you had any success if you have?
So the challenge comes is, again, in that ambiguity of what the regulations say. So currently we're allowed to use 3 platforms for social purposes. We're allowed to use LinkedIn, Facebook for business, and Twitter. The other platforms, while they're very viable social media platforms, we're not currently allowed to use. And that's just it's a line in the sand. It's not coming from the regulators. It's actually coming from internal policies and our interpretation of them. And I totally appreciate and understand a lot of it is supervision requirements. So sure. It's a lot on compliance departments to do it. Like imagine if, one long form piece of video, somebody's got to watch that whole thing and somebody has to approve that thing, right? So if 1,000 people all of a sudden start doing that, like you need an army of people just approving stuff, right? So I totally get it. But again, that's where technology hopefully will help ease. So we use those 3 main. My primary, just given the fact that my largest following happens to be on LinkedIn, that's my primary. And we have, I think a little over 10,000 or around 10,000 people. So it's pretty good following. And we're just growing every single day. So we add new people. The challenge with LinkedIn is that you get capped at 30,000. So, in our current page,
really?
Oh yeah. 30,000 is the max number of connections you can have on LinkedIn.
That'll be plenty.
It's still a lot, and it takes time, right? We're adding a couple hundred people a week, right? So like it's growing.
You're gonna have to start firing connections. That's gonna be
eventually.
amazing.
Actually, it's unfortunate. You end up doing.
I want to make that cut.
Totally, of course.
But in those 3 domains, then any retargeting, any deeper use of LinkedIn, anything you want to share in those domains where you found it successful, or are you just basically using the basic packages with your content creation and that's being successful?
So it depends if you're asking on the marketing side or the sales, because I think they're 2 different things. They're related.
They're definitely 2 different things. So why don't you tackle one at a time?
Sure. So marketing wise, it's more content creation. So putting it out there. Recently, we're through the new technology that they've recently implemented, we're allowed to now start using business pages. So that's a newer innovation on our end. So now I'm starting to pump that one up as much as I can. So most of the content that we're posting is going to be reposted and retargeted through my business side as well. And through the business side, I haven't figured out how to use the ads component, but that's going to be the next piece for us.
What is this business pages thing you speak of?
LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you can be a person, but then you can also have a business page.
I see. Wait, okay, the company page or the
Correct.
business page.
So you knew that, Rod.
We have that, don't we, Richard? We have that somewhere. Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so I use both, and then again, Facebook for business, you can use targeted ads. We have used them as well, and they're great. You're able to get a lot more eyeballs on them, and your money goes pretty far away, which is pretty cool. If you think about like a $25 spend to have your piece of content seen by 2,000 people or 3,000 people, that's pretty cool. So, and for $25, I'll do that all day. I remember,
especially if you have a niche product where you're not competing with a ton of other people. Another reason to go as niche as you can, right?
Totally. I'm all about niche, right? So it's funny. It's counterintuitive because you think that by niching, you're going to exclude people. But, I might be the cross-border guy, but the amount of people that come to me for just domestic stuff, it's funny. It happens all the time. So they're like, hey, I know you do this, but can you still help me? Right. And then you say, oh, yes, of course. Right. So,
Right.
So,
were you looking to pivot into like short form videos, TikTok, before TikTok became verboten?
Well, it's not verboten in Canada, but
right, there you go.
Totally. But
the cross border might.
Yeah, I mean, I'm regulated on both sides. So
how are your dance moves? Because that's
yeah.
You don't want to see
giving advice while doing the. Yeah.
You clearly watch it a lot, there, buddy. I'm impressed.
We have been introduced to it recently, Mike, and I think Mike, you introduced it to me. My God,
I get the animal tricks on TikTok are like amazing. I can't even.
They're awesome. I mean, I think TikTok is cool.
I
would love to use it for business. We're just not allowed to do it yet, right? So the challenge is that as the financial industry, we're always like 5 steps behind, right? Because they got to, get the regulations.
Shiraz, this is a great question because I've been trying to think of how you might use TikTok, given like it has this very limited. It's a very short video. So I'm not totally familiar with it. I'm a consumer, not a publisher on TikTok. But how might you think that we might be able to use TikTok? Because I agree. I'm like, oh, how would I use it though? And I can't really think of a way. Have you
So
got?
I think you got to be interesting, right? So realistically, you could either do a lifestyle. So you could either be living like you guys live, like that's amazing. You talk about your move, right? So you could do that, right? Or you could just profile specific things. And in 60 seconds, you can show a lot. You'd be surprised.
That's
right.
true.
And
Yeah.
people's attention spans are so short. So it's either doing something catchy. Remember, educate people or entertain people. Ideally, you're doing both. But if you're pulling to one or the other, you'll always be okay. Right. So you'll be fine. I think you'd be surprised what people would jump in on. But I think just even showing people snippets of what we do, because they watch Wolf of Wall Street and they think that's what we do. Right. Or that's how our business is.
What we do.
So different.
Well, what's been interesting in this podcast that we're doing, this live one, has been some of our most popular content, more because when you present a brand like Resolve Asset Management, right? You have a certain tagline on your website, you have a certain series of papers that you've written, and you have a uniformity of opinion. But of course, when you're inside the machine, there's different opinions. There's push and pull. There's a lot that goes into making that sausage. And I think the authenticity of actually having live discussions of disagreements between the partners, the other portfolio managers here, has been really key in getting more people to join the fray. So it really is that authenticity that people wanted to peek into the business, how it is that Shiraz actually does his work. That's what TikTok could be, right? On a day-to-day basis. That's what I thought like your car diaries were, right?
Oh, they would be perfect for it, to be perfectly frank. Those would actually be almost one of the best snippets that I could use for it. But I think just taking segments, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's anytime you can show your personalities, when people want to know about you, right? Why do you think reality TV is such a big thing, right? We all crave drama, right? Yeah. So play into it. Really lean in wherever you can. So I couldn't agree more, man. 100%.
Especially in our industry, right? You're supposed to look and dress and speak a certain way, and there's all these formalities. And then I think when people do get to see some authenticity and kind of sort of the backstages and how things really get done and what the thought processes are for some of the decisions, I think drives a lot of interest and brings a lot of people towards your thinking.
Well, yeah, this is what we're seeing with the new wave of young advisors, right? In the U.S., a lot of guys that we know are doing exactly the same thing you're doing, and to great success. It's different. I don't think anybody's like, I made fun of you, both of you guys, for having like an unbuttoned shirt and no tie. Like, what type of respect? I thought I was getting into a conversation with respectable advisors, but here we are, right?
You're wearing a polo shirt, Rod. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, but mine's a little higher. I'm not showing the whole. Yeah, basically the cleavage
going on there, buddy.
You're showing is a bit too much for my taste. But I'm clearly the old guard here.
Very conservative.
So yeah, that's all very neat. But I actually want you to continue down the path of the different technologies that you're using. So for Facebook, $25 gets you a ton of ads. You have LinkedIn. I don't think you're using Twitter as much as anything else. Are you pushing out a lot of content in Twitter?
So we do. So a lot of our content gets pushed out to all of them. The challenge is, so for me, of my following, Twitter is the smallest. And I think Twitter's really been changing, right? So it was one of the originals, and it was very widely used, but you're limited in the number of characters you can use. And Twitter's really good for engagement. So if you want to talk to people, it's for banter, frankly, right? So for me, it wasn't really where the type of content that I'm creating isn't almost ideal for. It's actually better in other forms. It's actually perfect for YouTube. It's ideal for LinkedIn now with the video side. LinkedIn's challenge is that you can only make videos up to 10 minutes in length. You can't go over. So if this one, for example, couldn't live on LinkedIn, right? Have to live somewhere else. So stuff like that would be what I'd be mindful of. But for me, I never got a major amount of traction from Twitter. But if you talk to Gary Vee, that's probably like his number one, right? So, Twitter is huge if you use it correctly. It's all about community. It's all about engagement. And you have to be on there and be authentic. And frankly, from my end, I just literally don't have the time to do it. I got, like you mentioned, I got 10 jobs to do, and there's not enough hours in the day.